limiting beliefs are great. They limit you until you're able to shatter them.
Welcome to the Measure Success podcast, where we feature top leaders on how they measure success in their business and life. Now, let's learn from their experiences.
Carl J. Cox here. I'm the host of the Measure Success podcast, where I talk with top leaders about effective strategies that inspire success. This episode is brought to you by 40 Strategy. 40 Strategy is built to make strategy work for small to medium-sized businesses and organizations by helping them design a world-class strategic plan, but more importantly, help keeping them accountable to actually get it done. To learn more, go to 40strategy.com. Also encourage you to go out and listen to our book, Lost at CEO. We have it on Audible, and you could also buy it on Amazon, and we have actually a 99 cents you could get the ebook. So go out, get it, and do a rating. We'd strongly appreciate that. Well, we get super excited about our guest that we have, and this is one of our guest shows we have. This is with Gino Barbaro. He's an investor, a business author, entrepreneur. As an entrepreneur, he has grown his real estate portfolio to over 2,000 multifamily units and 280 million in assets under management. He's the best-selling author of 3 books, Wheelbarrow Profits, The Honeybee, and Family, Food, and the Friars. He currently lives in St. Augustine, Florida. His beautiful wife, Julia, and their 6 children. I did not actually catch you at 6. You beat me with the 4 that I have, Gino. Welcome to the Measure Success podcast.
Carl, thanks for having me on. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. We almost were never going to get started with this podcast because we were like having too much fun on the outside of this. But we're gonna not talk about every controversial story, perhaps to the detriment of those who are listening. But let's start out with something, Gino, with something fun. Tell us one of the craziest business stories you've had and how it had a significant impact on you.
When you're in real estate, you tend to see a little bit of everything because you're dealing with people's lives. You're dealing with people's memories. You're dealing with people's treasured moments. I mean, we don't call them units. We call them apartment homes. We don't call them tenants. We call them residents. I mean, I remember on our very first property that Jake and I bought, that very first property, we had a resident who passed away in one of the units. We had our septic fields blow up 6 months after. It cost us thousands of dollars. We had bed bugs on that property. We had just rampant drug use when we first bought the properties, our very first property, so we didn't know what to do. I mean, the list can go on and on. We have mold issues going on, but it's just like anything else in any other business. People think that, being a W-2 employee is difficult. Well, when you become an entrepreneur, that's difficult as well. I always tell people, pick your poison, and there's going to be issues. My mom always told me you're going to have problems with money and you're going to have problems without money. I'd rather have problems with money because money can solve a lot of those problems, Carl.
Boy, that's a lot of wisdom right there. It's so interesting of that dichotomy, right? And a lot of times we talk about in the Measure Success podcast of, hey, look, and everyone knows who owns a project, we love capitalism. We want people to be as successful and make as much money as they can, but don't fool yourself into thinking it's going to make you happier, so to speak. Mm-hmm. Right? The data is really clear once you get to a certain point. Now, don't get me wrong, what you said, it's nice you can actually throw money at potential problems and you can do some things to fix them and you can make a bigger impact, but it doesn't necessarily internally you're any happier, right? Mm-hmm. With what's happening going on. So we're like going way different than we typically go, but I think I'm really curious you and some of the things that you've been doing. You've got a family, you've got a successful business. How have you helped find purpose in what you're doing in your core business and in your life? What's kept you grounded?
For me, it's been a journey. I started out in the restaurant business, and I bought my restaurant with my parents back in 1994. It was a family business, and I loved it. I truly loved it back in the 90s and early 2000s. You could make money. You could actually have a small business and have a great lifestyle. Well, when 2007 my father passed away, I remember saying to myself, am I living his dream or am I living my dream? And I had just realized that I really liked what I did, but I liked more working with my father. I respected my father so much. I loved him so much. I remember going to work when I was 9 years old, going into the kitchen, everyone saying, Chef Vito is great. And he was, to me, he was like a role model. He's my mentor. He taught me how to cook. He taught me how to be a man. He taught me how to be in business. Didn't teach me how to scale a business, but he taught me to really work hard. You didn't have to scale businesses back in the 70s and 80s. And when he passed away, I read the book by T. Harv Eker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And Carl, that changed everything for me. I realized that I was the victim. I wasn't being responsible. I all of a sudden said to myself, I need to start building a life, and everything that I do, as T. Harv says, your fruits are in your roots, will lead, I think, ultimately to your success. When I met my business partner, Jake, in 2009, he was a pharmaceutical rep, taking food out of our restaurant and bringing them to doctors' offices. He moved down to Knoxville in 2011. It took us 18 months to find the first deal. We weren't overnight successes, and there are very few people that don't lose a lot of money in business before making money. That's just the reality. And those of us that can withstand the punches and continue on, those are the ones who are successful, in my opinion. When we ended up buying that first property, we bought our next property 3 months later, and then we were off to the races. But really, strictly to your point, how I've been able to find impact, it's, as one of my good friends, Phil McCurdy, likes to say, we're all born with specific gifts and talents and going towards what we think our sole purpose is. And this is what I think for myself as being a parent. I'm trying to teach all of my kids. I have an old daughter. My oldest daughter is 24. I'm trying to figure out how I can help her find her special talent, her special gift, what she was put on this earth for, because we're all put on this earth for our own unique talents. And when I started Jake and Gino, I realized the impact that I could create through my business coaching, through my life coaching. And then all of a sudden, our students have closed 75,000 units. We've had over 120 students leave their W-2 jobs. And I've been able to bring my wife along on this journey. She became a life coach. She used to make fun of me, like, what do you do? And then all of a sudden, she started seeing the impact. And she started seeing how much fun it was to be able to talk to people and just let people talk to you and let them work their problems out and let them see light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's, I think we all have the capacity to do that. I think most of us are hiding. I was hiding in the kitchen for all those years, washing dishes and didn't want to interact and living a comfortable life. And when God sent me that message and saying, you're being too comfortable, I would put you on this planet to be more than just a dishwasher and to be more than just getting stuck in the kitchen. That's when everything changed for me. And I started saying to myself, the responsibility, what is my sole purpose? Stop living a life of scarcity. And oh, by the way, you've got this amazing family. How do you bring this amazing family along? And how do you share them? Because lack of family in this right now, what's going on in society right now, where we see the dissolution of the family and dissolution of family values, I want to be that light and not say to people, this is what you must do, but I want to lead by example. Because when people meet my family, they're like, wow, you've got some really amazing kids. And it's just not a testament to myself, but it's a testament to my wife and the sacrifices that she's made, staying at home, homeschooling them, and saying that, hey, if I can do it, if Carl can do it, then I want so many other people to do it.
There is so much to unpack in all the different pieces of what you said, and I love it. I love it how you have your passion behind what really matters, to you, and I also love the concept of getting uncomfortable, right, to be more joy. Gino, one of the things I always knew, I'm not a big gambler nor a big lottery guy at all. Like, I don't even like to do them, but I'd find myself, but when the lottery would get really big, I'd buy like $1 or $2 ticket. And I found out when I was doing that, I was like, oh, I'm bored. It was my sign that I was bored at my job. I was just going through the motions. Mm-hmm. And it was a signal to me that I'm no longer learning anything right now. And I need to make myself uncomfortable again because I'm not having joy in my day-to-day. Assuming you only work 8 hours a day, or maybe you work 4 hours a day or 2 hours a day, or you work 12 hours a day, you should enjoy the journey. Even if it's work, quote unquote, right? Even if it's work, it's okay to enjoy the journey, right? Not just the outcome, just the destination where you're going to. Because sometimes we don't get to the destination, right? We don't get exactly to where we intended, and you better enjoy life along the way. And so you have to be willing to get uncomfortable. So when you're talking with people, and maybe you're talking about your own experience, how did you help yourself recognize it's okay to be uncomfortable?
For me, unfortunately, it came from a place of desperation almost. Like I said, in 2008, we were talking about it. The Great Recession came about. I had an uncertain future. At the time, my fourth child was born. I needed more mouths to feed. And I was frustrated because up until that point, life was pretty cool. Like I said, I had a nice small family business. We were earning enough, but I guess we can call it a midlife crisis. And I'm like, I'm sort of stuck here. I'm not growing. I'm not enjoying myself. I'm not learning anything new. And to give you a point right now, I've been singing opera for the last couple of years because I got bored. and I needed to get a challenge in my life. I needed to go into a studio with my singing coach and every week be told that I suck at this. How do I get better? And it's just a challenge to get better. And it's a challenge to, when I speak to my students, I want to be able to go through what they're going through. Something different, like when you're underwriting a deal in real estate, if you've never done it before, that can be daunting. That can be challenging. So I want to come from a place of empathy. I want to come from a place of understanding that I'm doing something that I'm not very good at, and how do I get better at it? So for me, that's sort of how I look at it. And I was moving from a place of moving away from pain. And now I think in life, as you move away from pain, it's okay. But you don't want to constantly live like that. You want to get motivated. That was my motivating factor. How do I get away from pain? You want to start moving towards pleasure. And once you start moving towards pleasure, you can start creating your days, and you can start creating your months and your years like that. And as you're moving away from pain, what does that look like? As I'm talking, I want everyone listening to this, what do you want in life? If you ask that to 10 people, I will guarantee you 7 of those people they'll tell you what they don't want in life. And that was one of those 7 people. I didn't want to be at the restaurant. But when I got real serious, what did I want in life? I really wanted to create a small, impactful family business that could support my family, that I could bring my family along, that I could be proud of, that I could have really great culture and core values within the organization. And that's what I've created at Jake and Gino. And that's what I wanted. When I became really, really clear about that, a lot of stuff started to change. And it's really helped the other side of the business, which is the investment business. So they're symbiotic. They work together. There are multiple streams of income. But once you become clear on what you really want, I think things start to change.
There's nothing more powerful than that vision, right? Mm-hmm. And a little bit of a scary vision. We like to say you should create a vision that you're like 51% confident of doing, right? Not 49, right? But 51. Just confident enough that it's possible, right? That's what you want to hear. That's possible of getting it done, get to the part. I literally was writing a blog the other day, and there's some things that are silly, and I don't mind saying this, like, oh, well, I can't reach my dreams. Well, I'm not a tall guy. I'm 5'8" right now, and so it's silly for me to say I'm going to be 6 foot. That's a silly dream, right? Maybe if I'm in heaven someday, I get to be 6'3", okay, 6'2", 6'3", that'd be fantastic. But here today on this, earth, and I'm probably going to shrink from here, which is a little bit disappointing, okay? So as I just turned 50, so I'm 5'8". There it is, okay? That's just this reality. So to dream that dream of being 6 foot is a silly dream. And so some people's dreams are like that. They're silly dreams. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of other things that aren't silly that we're capable of doing that we can blow. And it's interesting I read Business Brilliant, and that was the book for me, Gino. I was in a company, we had tripled in size in 5 years. We had a tremendous amount of success. I had total flexibility. I got to coach my kids in sports, but I still got to this point where I was still bored. I got at the very end. And so when I got this job opportunity, and I had recently read Business Brilliant by Lewis Schiff, I was like, I have been thinking these truths that are not true, And so I want to go to that to you for a minute. I'm curious, what was one of those truths that you thought was true before that is a lie today?
We call those limiting beliefs, I guess, in life coaching. I mean, my limiting beliefs, I was ingrained as a saver. My parents were both immigrants. And it was great. I could save money. I can still save money. And I always thought you need to stay small. You can't take risk. Small business. And that's why I had one restaurant for 20 plus years. I couldn't scale it. But when I got into the real estate with Jake and myself, 1,500 units in less than 5 years, that makes no sense whatsoever. That belief of staying small. And my mom, all she was trying to do was trying to protect me. Another one, it takes money to make money. I mean, on our very 5th deal in real estate, it was an $11 million deal, 281 units back in August of 2015. We closed with zero money out of our pocket. The seller held a 20% note. The bank gave us the other 80% financing. In fact, we walked away at closing with $100,000 because of prepaid rents and other things. So that was shattered. I think those beliefs, once you shatter them, they're gone forever. And all you need to do is, if you believe something, just look out in the world and see if other people are doing it. When I went back in 2008, I was saying to myself, well, it's the economy. I've got to blame Bush, and then I have to blame Obama, and then the banks. And then I stopped and said to myself, time out. There's other people in this world that are making a ton of money. What are they doing? I have to stop blaming other people and take the responsibility upon myself. I mean, other limiting beliefs, I mean, I was a pizza guy. A pizza guy is not supposed to go into real estate. How does that work? How am I going to speak to my partner, Mike, who's a hedge fund, a commodities trader? How am I going to convince him to come aboard and be a partner with me? These are things that were racing through my mind at the time. And the only thing I could say to you is be prepared. Go do the work. And once you're prepared and you can do the work and you can speak to a potential partner like Mike, and you already have 1 or 2 investments under your belt, and then you can go out and raise capital like we've done, we've taught, or you can go out and use creative financing. You don't need your money, you need other people's money. I mean, there's just so many different things that I've gone through in my journey that, limiting beliefs are great. They limit you until you're able to shatter them.
Awesome stuff there. And a lot of people aren't aware that Warren Buffett got wealthy by investing other people's money, right? He now, granted, he made amazing long-term decisions, and he had an incredible long-term philosophy, right? That has been brilliant, right? Beyond belief, right? What he did, because a lot of people don't have that long-term staying power, if you may, and to stick with what they're going to do. But it was through raising money through other people, right? He was able to do a lot of that. And that's where I agree. It's interesting because, right, you had to do, Gino, I'm assuming you had to do research, right? You had to learn and you had to figure out the real estate business and you had to go through these parts, but you still had to act, right? A lot of people don't take that most important step of acting. So tell me about that first deal you did. How scared were you to move forward and to get it done?
Wow. For us, it was a small deal, quote unquote. It was only 25 units, but it was with a new partner. I'd never worked with Jake before. He knew nothing about real estate. I fortunately was smart enough this second go around to get mentorship. At the time, I probably spent $30,000 back in the mid 2000s to go and find mentors in multifamily to teach me, because I have what I call life before Jake and life after Jake. Life before Jake, I had no map, I had no process, I had no foundation. We were talking about your friend back in '08 had the empire who lost it. His foundation was not built on something solid. It just wasn't. And I can attest to that. I made so many mistakes before I met Jake, but when we partnered up and we found that very first deal, the fear will never leave. You still have that little twinge of fear, even after doing 2,000 units. It's never going to go away. Like anger in life, you may be able to control it. You may be able to understand it. But for me, I wanted it to work. I did all the numbers. I ran the projections. And remember the night before, I felt like throwing up, to be completely honest with you.
I love it how you said, hey, I was nervous. I was sick to my stomach. And even recently, a new deal is you still get that excitement, right, of it. And, I'm sure you have done, let me assume, you've done a fair amount of public speaking, I'm assuming, right? Over the,
I have.
And so even the pros get a little bit of excitement, right, before stepping on a stage, especially as the bigger the crowd that's there. And to me, that means you care, right? It means that you care about delivering something that's going to be special and meaningful to the people who are in the audience. And when I think you got to question yourself when you start losing that, right? When you start losing, okay, once again, what can we do to make ourselves uncomfortable in your business today? How do you measure success?
We have a BHAG at Jake and Gino, our big, hairy, audacious goal. It's really to have 1,000 students leave their W-2s by the year 2030. That's one of the metrics that we use. And the other metrics is number of units that students close. They're at 75,000 units right now that they've closed to date. They've raised over $500 million. There's no other way for me to measure success other than our student success. One of our core values is people first. So I think when you can focus on the success of your employees as well, but really the students. And if the students do really well and we get great reviews, we can get more students into the community, which fulfills for them, and then we can hire more employees. And I think the list goes on and on. So working amongst that's what we're focusing on here at Jake and Gino.
I love your BHAG, by the way, and that you use that term. I got good to great here in the back, of course, where that's sourced from, big, hairy, and audacious goal. And secondly, one of my best companies, I'd say the company with best culture I've ever worked for, Lightspeed, we used people first was one of our 5 core values, and it was,
right.
I love that concept. And so thank you for that. So I'm curious about, you have so much going on, you have so many different pieces, family, and you have your business, and you have your coaching business, your real estate business, coaching business. You have a lot going on. What type of habits are you doing for yourself on a consistent basis so you can help continue to stay your best?
I try to read every day, at least 15 minutes. I try to sing at least every other day. For my kids, every day. I spend time with every single one of them every day. That's so important for me. Whether it's 10 minutes, now the younger ones, I get to spend more time than the older ones. That to me is truly important. And I'm just thinking, as far as every day, at least 1.5 miles of walking. I jog every other day, 2 miles, so I'm getting in enough exercise. I'm trying to stay hydrated enough, and for me, I'm Italian, so I need to stay away from the carbohydrates. So it's really trying to encompass things. And as you get older, and Carl, believe it or not, I need 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night without fail. And if I don't, I can just feel it after a couple of days. So for those of you out there that can sleep less than 6 hours, God bless you. I am not one of them.
Yeah, no, those are great habits. I really appreciate it. So we asked it a little bit beforehand, but I'll ask it again because just in context of our whole conversation. How do you measure success now in your personal life?
I love that question. I was just reflecting on it before we got on the show today. Success in my 20s looks like a lot different than success in my 50s. I mean, to me, success now is just getting up, being grateful. I think I have to show more gratitude than what I do. And when I can show the gratitude, it makes me feel more successful. And I'm not even talking about closing deals or anything, but just being grateful for what I have, for what I've been able to build, for the family that I have. And the success to me is being that role model or that steward for my children, for them to be able to come to me and to be able to discuss whatever's on their plate, whatever's bothering them, that I can be there for them. And it's the same thing with my employees. If I can be there for them, it's great. And as far as monetary, number of units and cash flow, it's not really on my agenda. If we're closing deals, great. If we're not, I've got more than enough money. But I thought, when I was younger, like I said, success was more about making money.
So what is a book that you recommend for the audience?
Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. I love that book.
Yeah, it is a fantastic book.
Thanks for listening to the Measure Success podcast. We'll see you again next time to learn from the best. Remember to subscribe now to get future episodes.